Welcome to MAT2LB booklet number 5, Eating in Restaurants and Shopping for Food. Lesson number 5, Price per Unit. So now we're sort of stepping a little bit away from eating in restaurants and we're talking a little bit more about shopping for food. So this would be purchasing food that you would want to come home and prepare on your own or for yourself. And this lesson, which is price per unit, details exactly how to go about determining if you're paying the best price for items that you buy in multiples bigger than one. So things that you buy in multiples larger than one might be like cans of pop. Usually you buy cans of pop in like a case of maybe 24, or if they're like sort of those bottles, you might get 6 of them. Other things you would buy might be like white powdered donuts. There might be like 12 or 18 of them in a package. And if there's lots of different choices, how do you know you're getting the best deal for your product? This is where price per unit comes into play. It builds on something that you learned in grade 9, which is something called proportions, which is where you have two ratios set equal to each other, and you can solve for unknown values by cross-multiplying and subsequently dividing to isolate x. Now, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about variables yet in grade 10. We're going to spend a little more time on it in some units that are coming up, but hopefully you remember a little bit of that from grade 9. Let's look at example number 1 and we'll get right to it. So our goal is to find the unit price of toilet paper if it costs $2.99 for a 6-roll package. So in this context, when we're talking about a unit price, we want to know how much does it cost for 1 roll of toilet paper. We know how much it costs for 6. That's $2.99, but how much does it actually cost for 1? That leads us to step number 1, which is to use the following ratios to calculate unit price. So, and I've outlined them here. Again, let's put a little box around it so you can see what I'm talking about. But to find the unit price, you want to take the unit price divided by the number of units. And if we're talking about 1 unit, then we're talking about 1, equals another ratio, which is the total cost over the total number of units. So given that, let's fill in the values that we know. And there's going to be 3 out of the 4 values that we know when we're trying to determine unit price. So in this case, in this example, the unit price, that's the thing we don't know. And that's where we're going to put our variable. Now I'm going to use x. You can use any variable you like, but x is fairly common. And we're going to put x over 1, since we're talking about 1 unit. Next, let's look at the second ratio. What's the total cost for 6 rolls? That's going to be $2.99. And again, we're going to put that over top of the total number of units. So how many rolls cost $2.99? That's going to be 6 of them. So what we've created here is a proportion, and a proportion is 2 ratios that are set equal to each other. In this case, we are now going to be able to determine how to figure out the unit price by taking our x and actually doing this little bit of division right here. I'm going to again get out my highlighters. This piece here we are going to divide. We are going to take our numerator, which is $2.99, and we are going to divide it by 6 units to find out how much 1 unit is going to be. And that is going to equal, when we type it into our calculator, $2.99 divided by 6 is going to give us, I will write this out, 0.4983 and a whole bunch of 3's. So again, this is a little bit too much. We want to be rounding this to money, so we want to round to the nearest hundredth. And hundredth in this place is going to be a 9. We look to the digit after the 9 to tell us how to round the 9, and it's an 8. So what that tells us is we are going to need to round that 9 up to a 10, really. But in carrying that 10 forward, that 4 will actually also be rounded up to a 5. So we're going to get an answer of 50 cents. Now we're going to write this out. So the unit cost is, I'll write down the numeric value, it's going to be 0.50 or 50 cents, which is our cost per roll. So that's going to be dollars per roll. And that's how we figure this out. Let's try A again together. We'll go through the steps again, and then you guys can try B on your own. So A says, find the unit price of baby food if it costs $4.50 for a 10-jar package. So first things first, we're going to set up our proportions. We've got something over something equals something over something. Our first one is going to be unit price over 1 unit. So that's where we're going to be putting our variable. That's going to be unit price, don't know, over 1. So that's really just an x. If we have a denominator of 1, it won't impact it either way. So we can just let that one, we don't have to write it down again. In the second ratio, we're going to take the total cost, which is $4.50. We're going to divide it by the number of total items, or the total number of items, which in this case is going to be 10 jars. So now we finished our proportion. Now we can do this calculation. The x will be equal to $4.50 divided by 10. That's what this fraction bar right here is telling us to do. This fraction bar says, hey, divide. And now we're going to do that division. So we're going to get 4.50 divided by 10. It's going to give us x. Whoops. X equals 0.45. So that's 45 cents per jar. Each jar in that package will cost 45 cents. So hopefully you've got a bit of a grasp of how to set this up. I'm going to let you try B on your own. So here's where I'd like you to hit pause. Hit pause here. Try to get B on your own. Find out how much it costs per pen. And when you've got an answer, come on back. We'll see how you did. Okay, let's have a look at this one. We're going to set up our two ratios. Again, we've got something over something equals something over something. The first one is the unit price, which we don't know but want to know, over 1, equals the total cost, which is $1.99, over the total number of items in the package, which is 12 pens. From here, we actually just do that little bit of arithmetic. $1.99 divided by 12. So let's do that on our calculator now. 1.99 divided by 12 gives us x equals 0.16583 and a whole bunch of 3's coming after that. So again, we need to round this. We need to round this to the nearest hundredth. The number in the hundredth place value is a 6. We look to the number after it to tell us how to round the 6, which is a 5. 5 tells us that we are going to round that 6 up to a 7. So we're talking about 17 cents per, what is the item that we're after? Per pen. And that's how we do these calculations. Now example number 2 takes that one step further. It sets up two different scenarios. So in this case we're talking about donuts. What's the best price per donut? $1.49 for 6 of them, or $2.79 for 12 of them. We can't make this comparison because in one scenario we're buying 6, in the other scenario we're buying 12. We need to figure out how much it costs for one donut. And that's unit price. That's what we're doing in this lesson. So let's do each of these. I'll set up number 1 here. First calculation we're going to do for donuts. Something over something equals something over something. The first one is unit price. So unit price we don't know, that's our x, over 1 equals, in our first scenario, it's $1.49 over 6 donuts. And from here, we can do that bit of arithmetic. X will equal $1.49 divided by 6. Let's type that into our calculator. $1.49 divided by 6 gives us 0.248, whole bunch of 3's. So again, we need to do a little bit of rounding here. We need to round to the nearest hundredth. So the nearest hundredth, the number in the place value hundredth is 4. We look to the digit after it, 8, to tell us how to round the 4, and that tells us that we are going to round the 4 up to a 5. So this costs about 25 cents per donut in scenario number 1. So what I'd like you to do here is hit pause, and I'd like you to try scenario number 2 on your own. When you've got it, come on back, and we'll see how you did. Okay, you're back. Let's try scenario number 2. Again, we're going to set up that ratio. Unit price over 1 equals cost, total cost, which is $2.79, over total number of items, which is 12 donuts. Here we do the arithmetic. $2.79 divided by 12. Let's type that into our calculator and see what we get. We get x equals 0.2325. We need to round that. So let's get to the nearest hundredth. There's a 3. We look to the digit after it, which is a 2, to tell us how to round it. And it tells us that we are going to keep that 3 the same, or 23 cents per donut. And now we just need a little summing up. So which of these is actually the better deal? 25 cents per donut or 23 cents per donut? The best scenario is the one with the lowest price per unit. So I'll put a little red check mark here. This is the lowest price, which is great. So now we just need a quick little summing up statement, which I'll do over here. Therefore, $2.79 for 12 donuts is the better deal. And a little summing up statement like this is always a good idea with a bit of a word problem. So there's our answer. And that brings us to the end of lesson number 5. If you have any questions, go back through portions of the lesson. If you're feeling good, head on to the worksheet, and I'll see you in lesson 6.